Okay, we're back. Discussion 2, big questions, but we're answering the small questions. The one I chose, because I'll link it in the discussion post as well. But the one I chose was the Ouija 1940s New York bystanders looking murder scene. And I picked that one just because there's I don't know, there's a lot of expressions you can read, so you can see you can take like a lot of different interpretations from it and stuff like that, which adds to the complexity of it, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Um, so it is definitely a practice of looking. I mean, obviously the people in it are looking at something, and it does somewhat reflect kind of power dynamics in society, especially just kind of how even people in their normal day to day is just want to look at stuff like this with morbid fascination. Anyway, let's break it down with the other questions first, because it is a big question, so that's why there's the smaller questions. Does the image tell us why we look? Yeah, I think it definitely does. There's definitely, even though there's a mix of facial expressions and different kind of interpretations of people just being kind of aghast and scared. Some people just being shocked, some people being disgusted, some people being a little too excited. There is I think there's someone in kind of top corner that's just a little too excited about seeing what they're seeing. And I'm like, what's going on with you? But you can kind of just tell that there's just kind of this. Everyone has this morbid fascination with what's going on. Just kind of the same thing as rubbernecking on the highway, just to see a bad wreck on the side. But ooh, that was nasty, and you keep driving even though in driver's ed class you learn to keep your eyes on the road and not go all the time. So it's just again with other stuff, it just kind of it's just because there's does it tell us why we yeah, there's fascination to see what's going on. I think that people generally want to know, kind of be in the know, and just kind of being aware of their surroundings and stuff like that, and just kind of if something kind of big is happening, they just want to be kind of their eyes on it just to understand what's going on. Um and it's just, I don't know, it's just and people want to know also different reactions to stuff like that, because I don't know, there's so many videos on the internet of just people reacting to stuff, because I don't know, people find it entertaining to watch other people react to stuff and know what their take is on things. um does it tell us what images can do? And there's the cop out answer of images tell us a story. But it also makes sense, and it does paint us a picture, to use the really bad pun that's just right there. um it kind of just it builds this narrative of what's going on. It's just these people were probably all just milling about, and then just something happened, and they're like, oh well, what's this? There's just intrinsic nature of your curiosity to see what's going on. um and it builds this message of just kind of the sensationalism of some stuff like that, of murder and crime and stuff like that, and that's builds up into the fascination with true crime today, with all these true crime podcasts and YouTube channels, and all the movies and shows coming out about serial killers and whatnot like that, even though people specifically said, hey, please don't make this, it was traumatizing to my family, and then they get made anyway because they make money, and then money kind of runs everything, unfortunately. um yeah, it just it gets this message out to a lot of people, especially the more that's published in, which leads us into the next question of does it tell us who is allowed to look? Yeah, it kind of is if it's accessible to people, they'll see it, or if they'll want to see it, they'll go out to see it. It's just I mean, during the time, probably with certain images, they were only seen by people who had the newspaper or magazine or book that they were printed in, and other people might have shown it to people. So maybe those people were the only allowed to see it per se. But now with the internet just being this a super highway of images and information, just anyone and everyone with internet access can see stuff that's been posted on the internet. And if it gains enough popularity, the algorithm or whatever picks it up, then it will be shown to millions and millions and millions of people. Um, and stuff like that. And yeah, you can also see there's kind of people holding other people back or trying to turn people away. And it's yeah, there might be some situations where in society they're all right, this group of people are not allowed to look at this, or this group of people are not allowed to look at that. And that might be just because of classified documents or whatnot like that. Or it might just be hey, I don't want my 3-year-old watching American Psycho on accident. That kind of a thing. Again, censorship is not necessarily a great thing. I mean, in some cases, it's yeah, this person is purposely spewing hate speech and misinformation. Let's not super give them a platform. Um, but you just kind of let art be art in a lot of sake. It's better for society if you just let art be art. So again, yeah, it's just anyone with access is kind of allowed to look. Even if they're not super having given access, they might try to find ways to get access, or like people can pirate shit. And then does it tell us how images can be used? Again, this ties in with the other question of does it tell us what images can do? And it's just like kind of like, yeah, it portrays a message and it gets a message across to a lot of people. And kind of it does it like it like there might be like a strong interpretation of it that's like the author like or the creator of the image definitely wants to get across. It might be like super present in there and people still miss it. You see that with conservatives listening to Rage Against the Machine going like they really get us. And I'm like, Bestie, that's not for you. Not Bestie, Worsty. Let's go use word. Yeah, Worsty, that is not for you. Um, yeah, it's just like it gets, and people can kind of make their own interpretation of it as well, and what that means to them. Like we talk about, like the connotation, just kind of like the cultural and societal things that happen to people in their own day to day lives, that can kind of like change their interpretation of stuff like that. But it's definitely kind of just like used to get this message across, like, hey, this is kind of like an issue we have in society. It's just kind of weird that happens, and we should take a little closer look at it. Like, why do people have this kind of weird fascination with stuff like this, and why is it so sensationalized? Um, and then again, that turns into the last question here. Does it tell us about the power of images in our society? Yeah, it definitely does. It does definitely kind of like it elicits like a feeling in people, and like especially this one, it's like because you scan all the different faces and stuff like that, and you get like in knowing the content, the content, not content, the context of what they're looking at. That kind of like also adds to it as well. It definitely is just like it can definitely get a lot of people feeling certain things about a certain event or like a certain topic and whatnot like that. Like again, there's like the in the another one of the rings we had this week, there was like the picture of the firefighters raising the flag, at like ground zero. Like yeah, that definitely there's like a definitely a power to that image, especially going across a lot of people. It like definitely shows like, hey, America took this like big hit for like the first time in a while, but we're resilient and we can come back from this. And our first responders are strong, powerful people who like want to like help the city and stuff like that. Um, yeah, but like this image in particular does help us. Like it kind of like it tells us that like I don't know. It's interesting because the image itself is a reaction to like an image, even though the image isn't the react to isn't really an image. It's something happening in real life. But it is showing that it just kind of can elicit so many different reactions in people and so many different powerful reactions in people, even with everyone having their own different interpretations on it, and whatnot. But yeah, it's an interesting picture with a lot of things behind it.